Hello, how are you doing? I am turning on, um, you know, thing that I always have to turn on, Instagram. All right, let's see. Aha! There we go. Looks like we're on. You would think by now I would remember what it's called, right? Instagram. And I'm thinking, I'm using this. The camera that I'm using is not attached to the computer. It's a separate one, and I'm thinking I should find a way to lower it a little bit so that I'm actually kind of like looking at it when I'm talking instead of like when I look at the screen, I'm looking below it. Let's see. Good morning, Monica. How are you? And we have some people joining over on Instagram. Monica was on YouTube. So that is awesome. I'm sure we've got Facebook going as well. So everything is hunky dory. Yay! Um, I did not send out a newsletter this weekend with the information on the good morning or good afternoon, Karen. Sorry. Yeah, Karen must be in my time zone or later because it's 12:01 here, so it is afternoon. Oh, here we go. Facebook, Sarah. Hello. And Monica, it's a foggy morning in sunny California. Yeah, we used to have a lot of those when I lived there. Of course, when I lived there, we still had smoggy mornings. We still have smog there, but not as bad as it was when I lived there. Um. Anyway, what was I saying? Rain. Oh, I did not. It is sunny in Scotland at the moment. Yay! I did not send out a newsletter this weekend because I was hoping to have super exciting news for you, but we hit technical difficulties. Ah. So hopefully there'll be exciting news for next week. But I kept holding on the newsletter, thinking I'd be able to give you the exciting news, and no. So then I realized that I haven't sent the newsletter at all because I kept waiting for the news. So I will send a quick one with a link to the sit and stitch. So when this is over, I'll quickly go in and just send a sit and stitch um, newsletter so that everybody has the link, even if you're not over on in the Facebook group. Remember, you can always grab the link for the sit and stitch from the Facebook group, but I know not everybody is on Facebook. Um, Getting in the Facebook group is super easy. We're not picky, just please answer the questions and check that you agree to the rules, which are mostly just be nice. And then you're in. It's all good. They might be the old questions from when Furls owned Crochet Foundry. I should double check that. I'm not 100% sure, but they're my questions. I should check. Anyway, so Sarah is jealous of Karen right now because it is cloudy in Austin and Karen is sunny in Scotland. So, all right. Today I was thinking of doing some fun little crochet slash crochet adjacent tutorial on how to add crochet onto fabric. So let's say you have like you want to make a quick and easy baby blanket and you just get a big old piece of fun fabric and you're going to put a crochet border around it, or even even if you're going to layer two or three pieces, a front piece, a back piece, and bunting in the middle, bunting, batting, batting in the middle, and then put a border on it, or just a big old piece of fleece and put a border on it, whatever, or put a little lacy bottom, crochet bottom on a skirt or on the bottoms of your sleeves, or maybe your neckline is a little low on your shirt and you just want to add a little crochet around it or something. Anyway, so I was going to show you how to do that sort of thing. Yeah, you love doing the fleece thing to baby blankets. Um, so sometimes you will crochet directly into the fabric. People will often do that with fleece because if you get a crochet hook that has, where did my crochet hook go? Here we go. If you get a crochet hook that has like a pointy point on it, especially if you're using like a steel one or whatever, sometimes you can just shove it right through the fabric, depending on what the fabric is, and just crochet right on, right? Or there's also the skip tracing wheels or cutting wheels. Okay, let me grab mine here. Okay, so you know these little cutters, little whoosh color cutters, right? Well, they make them so that they cut polka dots. Polka dots? Not really. It's actually, if you look, you can see that there is, it's like a 1/4 inch blade and then maybe 3/8 of nothing and then a 1/4 inch of blade and then like 3/8 of nothing. Actually, it's probably about, now that I'm looking at it, it's probably about an 1/8 inch of blade and a quarter to probably 3/8 inch of nothing, an 1/8 inch of blade. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, the point is, it puts dashed line. That's the word that I was looking for. That's the expression. A dashed line. Okay, so looking to see if I have a little piece of paper or something I can do that on. I do. Here we go. Look at this. I have a little piece. Maybe if I can only pick it up, a little piece of paper, and a little something to put it on here. So I'm just gonna go right here. You can kind of see it, and it's hard to do on this because this is a soft surface. Yeah, this is squishy. You want something that you're not going to cut through, like a cutting board, a cutting mat or something. So you can see almost. Yeah, no, you can't. Let me find something a little better to cut on. You know, I could have planned this a tiny bit better than I did, right? Well, whatever. We're going to deal with the fact that I can't exactly show you, but you can see from the blades what it's going to do. Okay, um, and that is great. However, it is not necessary. That was fun. It is not entirely necessary because there's this thing that this is what I always learned to do. We're going to take, here we go. All right, so I have a yarn needle with crochet thread on it. Okay, so this is just like that good old crochet thread, right? If the yarn you are using for your, hello from a hot Toronto, Monique, and Sarah, planning on doing this for a fleece blanket for your mom. Awesome. And over on Facebook, One Fish, Two Fish, hee hee, red fish, blue fish. One Fish, Two Fish, 112 says good morning. I think that's the only, yeah, that's the only actual comment over there. So yes, and the great thing about what I'm going to teach you to do is it doesn't need to be a fabric that you can easily shove your crochet hook through, okay? And you don't need any real super special tools. This is a embroidery needle, okay? You can use your yarn needles or whatever. You just want a needle that is whatever the smallest needle you can use that will do the things you need it to do is always a good idea so that you're not making giant holes in anything. So this is just actually an embroidery needle that has kind of a blunt tip, but it's sharp enough that it could go in between the weave of the fabric. Because what you really want to do is you want to, when you're going through fabric, you don't want to be poking holes. You don't want to be cutting the fabric, which is one of the reasons why that cutter isn't always the best idea. You want to be going in between the grain of the fabric. So it's like, it's the same idea as going in between the stitches in your crochet, right? If you're going in between the fibers of the fabric, you know, fabric is just woven. It's, you know, you think about just like a straight woven fabric. There's different kinds of weaves, but it's just woven threads, right? And so you're sticking your needle in between the weaves. And you're not cutting anything, which means it's not as likely to tear. If you cut something by using the skip tracing wheel or the skip cut wheel or whatever, then you have a higher likelihood of something tearing later. If you do this, less likelihood. And it really isn't so much, people say that the skip cutting wheel is faster because it cuts the lines so quick. But the fact is, after you've done the skip cutting wheel, you still have to like crochet into it, right? And those holes are big enough to put a crochet hook in, which is great. However, this you're still having to do that first row. So in this technique, we're actually doing that first row. Instead of crocheting directly into the fabric, we're going to make a sew a blanket stitch into the fabric. And so I have this little, I'm doing it on paper because it's a little easier for you to see. So I have this little tag that I just grabbed. It was on a bag that was obviously for me, since it's got my name on it, right? Obviously from somebody I know well enough that they know my whole name. Or maybe it was somebody they were taking my name off of however I paid them because my full name is on my credit card. Anyway, so I like to do this stitch from I like to sew, when you do the blanket stitch, you're always going in the same direction. So you'll always be stitching either down through the fabric or up through the fabric. I like to always go down through so that I can see where I'm putting my needle, right? Because if you're coming up, you're kind of guessing. It's like, wait, where am I putting it? But if you're going down, you're looking where you're putting it, okay? And I also like to work from the back of the fabric. So this is going to be the pretty front, and this is going to be the back. And what I've done here is I have put holes in here. You don't have to put holes. I put them in here because there's not there's not the weave of the fabric to put things through. But what I recommend doing is taking a little ruler or something, unless you're really good at eyeballing it, which some people are. Okay, when I do this, I tend to just eyeball it usually. But take your ruler, and I tend to put my little dots with, like, you can use a marker or whatever. Again, if you're on the wrong side of the fabric, it's all great. They also make markers that are water soluble, that'll come out with the water. They'll make the ones that fade, however you want to do it. And just mark down about a 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric and about a 1/4 inch apart. If you have a fabric that frays a lot, I actually would put it down a 1/2 inch and a 1/4 inch apart, and just make the little dotted lines. So the dots are each a 1/4 inch apart. And if you have a fabric that doesn't fray too much, it's down a 1/4 of an inch. If you have a fabric that frays a lot, it's down a 1/2 inch, okay? If you had that fabric that frayed a lot, you're actually then going to fold that 1/2 inch over towards the back, okay? So there would be a little piece folded over so that it would still, at the end, end up being only a 1/4 inch. Now, working from the back, all right, we're first going to put our needle in our very first hole, working from the back to the front, okay? And just pull until you have a couple inches of a tail. And this is the one and only time you're going to go the other direction. You're going to hold on to that, right? And then go back through the same exact hole. So if you pulled this all the way, you just pull your yarn, your thread, straight back out again. You see how there's a loop? Now just put your hook, your needle through the loop. Tighten it, make sure you're holding onto the tail, and tighten it up, okay? So what you have on the front of your fabric is one little line. And what you have on the back is a little loop that you've caught, okay? Make that the other way around. Sorry, what you have on the front of your fabric is the two loops, and then the back is just the one little line and the tail, okay? Now, oh, thank you. We have a nice shirt here. We got a few extra things, a few people talking real quick. Let me just have them. Where's my mouse? There it is. We have a good afternoon. Hello. Thank you. All right, and it doesn't look like there's any more comments over there on Instagram. All right, so now that is the very first stitch, okay? And again, we're going to, now the rest of the stitches are all going to just be from the back to the front in every single one. So all we're going to do now is in that next little hole, we're going to go from the back of the fabric to the front of the fabric. And if you guys are doing this, you would want to be looking at your work, all right? You're looking at the back of the fabric, which means that you're not having to worry about trying to find the hole because you're looking right at it. It's not hidden underneath your work. So you're looking at it, you're going from the front to the back. And then what you're going to do is, you see how we have this big loop here? Okay. You want to actually put your needle back over the top of your fabric, okay, right there over the top of your fabric, and wrap that loop around it. And you'll see what I mean here in a moment as we pull it. Okay, so it caught that little, oops, what did I do? Oh, I caught my tail, sorry. Okay, so it caught that little loop, okay, and now there's a line of fabric going across, a line of thread going across the top. So let's do that again. You can go from the front, from the back of the work to the front of the work, and you can make it really easy on yourself. And once you've done that, you can take this thread and wrap it underneath the needle so that you've actually already caught that piece of thread. Okay, and we'll do that again. We're going to go from the back of your work to the front of your work, and then make sure that this thread goes underneath the needle. So the thread is underneath the needle in the back, okay, or actually in the front, sorry. There you go, and you pull it tight. All right, we'll do a couple more, and then I'll show you what it looks like on the, see, here we go. And from the back of your work to the front of your work, and then make sure that the thread is underneath your needle. Losing my words. And pull it tight. All right, and you can see here, actually you don't want to pull it too tight, just you want to pull it just snug so that you get, oops, this little, let's try to make it not fuzzy. There we go, so that you get this look. All right, you can see it, you can actually see it against something black a little easier, I think. Woo, there we go. There, you can get that look, okay? Now you're just going to keep going across. And what happens is, in the end, when you're all done, you're going to be able to stitch into these little loops. So I'll do a few more, and then we'll pull out our crochet hook. If you have your fabric that frayed a lot, right, and you were trying to make sure that you didn't want it to fray, oopsie, so you put your dots down ½ an inch instead of a ¼ inch. Then when you're pulling this, you want to make sure that your fabric has then folded itself in half. So since this is the back of our fabric, you would want to make sure that it folds towards the back of the fabric. And then what you would have is you would have a fold of your fabric up here, and the fraying end would be down here on the back of your fabric, and that will give it, that means that your mattress stitch has kind of held the fold in, which is going to help keep it because it's encasing your edge that would normally fray. So that is a great way to do this with a fabric that tends to fray a little bit more, or if you just want to have a neat folded edge underneath here. But I'll tell you what, guys, once you put your crochet on, once you start crocheting onto it and everything, a lot of times you don't see what's going on up here. So just remember that as you're working, it gets less and less obvious what's going on under there, okay? So I just wanted to get to this corner. I'm going to keep going to the corner. Does anybody have any questions right now? Or anything else you want to talk about with Crochet Foundry or anything like that? This is just something that I love, being able to put crochet on my, I love being able to put crochet in fabric. I might have some, you know, really cool little fabric squares that I want to put borders around and make, like, you can turn them into granny squares essentially, right? They don't have to be a granny square, but you can turn them into a crochet square by taking a square of fabric or rectangle or whatever, and putting a crochet border around it, and then you can crochet things together and make a blanket that is fabric squares that are crocheted together. Monique asks, is there a method we could use if we need to add a sole to a crochet slipper? This is actually a good method to, if you're going to crochet onto the sole, but if you do something like this, I would recommend putting like, you would want 2 layers if you did something like this. I don't like having this part, like this would be the bottom of your shoe, right? And I wouldn't want that on the bottom of my slipper because it might get worn away faster as you're walking. I mean, you could do it, right? Um, what I would do is one of 2 things. One, if you're putting some sort of no slip that you stuff that you kind of paint on afterwards, as long as you put it over these stitches, it would probably keep them from fraying away. And then the other thing is you could do this and then have a second sole that gets glued on top of the first one, and that encases these stitches in. Um, there are also soles that you just stick onto the bottom of the crochet piece at the end. But I've also seen I've seen soles that have they have the bottom sole and they have just a tiny little lip that turns up a little bit, and then they have the holes in them. This is exactly, I would do this with that, with those sorts of soles. You can crochet directly into those if the hook and the yarn you have will fit through the holes that are already in the pre-existing sole. So your sole, a lot of the soles that I've seen that are sold specifically to be crocheted into, they're flat and then they have just the tiniest, they have like a 1/2 inch lip around them. And in that 1/2 inch lip is where all the little holes are. Sometimes your crochet hook or your yarn is too thick to go through those holes. That's when you do the mattress stitch through those holes, and then you crochet through these loops. And if you're using a really bulky yarn, then instead of 1/2 inch, instead of a 1/4 inch apart for your holes, maybe they're 3/8 of an inch, maybe they're 1/2 inch. They put them as far apart as they need to be. I do not like to put them any closer than 1/8 of an inch because it adds a little too much strain to the fabric. However, if I'm using a really small yarn, then what I'll do is I'll still keep it a 1/4 inch apart, but I might do 2 stitches in each of these, okay? Or I was going to show you a first row and then some options for a second row and stuff here in a moment. All right, so here we go. Crochet borders on sleeves of t-shirts and granny squares on pockets. Exactly. See, that's super fun to do. Okay, cool. I'm glad that made sense. Crochet slippers your grandmother used to make were like ice campaigns on the floors. Yes. You know, another really good really good tip for that. Do they still make that puffy paint? Like in the 80s, they used to make this puffy paint, like fabric puffy paint. And I remember for theater, we did an entire production where everybody was it wasn't Equus, it was about horses though. It was Strider, right? And they were all horses, and so they had socks. They were all in socks when they were on the stage. And so what we did was we took the puffy paint and put puffy paint on the bottom of their socks, and it made them no slip. But now they also make stuff that you can paint on there. Okay, so Sunita just saw the video that Altnuts made on adding crochet to clothes. Yes, there are soles that you can buy that are designed with holes. You can search like slipper bottoms for crochet or something like that. I've seen them, the last time I saw them, they were being sold from crochet.com, crochet.com. But the last time I actually noticed them was probably a couple of years ago, a year or two ago. So whether or not they still have them, I'm not sure. All right. Yes, that pump paint was so fun, right? It was like the best thing ever in the 80s. All right, so now we're getting to the corner, and I do actually three, I guess I do two stitches in the corner. I was like, I can't, it looks like three, but it's really only two. So we're going to do this corner stitch, right? So we're going through and we're wrapping the thread around the needle so that it gets caught. Oh no, I think it is three. Okay. And then I'm going to do that again. Hold it. Okay. I'm going to do it again. And this time I'm going to try to kind of finagle it so that it's right on the corner. Okay, so I'm futzing with it and getting it as close to like on the corner as I possibly can. And then one more time, and we're getting it on the other side. Okay, so you kind of have to futz with it a bit, but that is how you get that little corner that has a line across here and a line across here. And now I'm going to keep on going around from there. All right, and now that I've got my corner, I can show you some how to crochet into things tips. I just wanted to make sure I got that corner for you guys. Okay. All right. All right. So I'm not sure what that one meant, Monique, but is this still considered embroidery? Yeah, it is. This is an embroidery stitch. Needlepoint. Needlepoint is kind of okay. Cross stitch, obviously, has the cross. Well, you don't obviously know. Cross stitch is the one that has the stitches that cross each other. Okay. Needlepoint usually refers to, like, some people use needlepoint referring to just the stuff that's done on a heavier fabric. And some people use embroidery as like done on more delicate things. But needlepoint, needlepoint is kind of the all encompassing and also includes crochet, also includes cross stitch and embroidery. It's hard to decide. Like, I've looked it up and tried to find like what is the actual, which things are needlepoint, which things are embroidery, which is what's what. And really the only one that seems to have kind of this is definition is more like cross stitch, which a lot of people say cross stitch is underneath the umbrella of needlepoint or underneath the umbrella of embroidery or underneath the umbrella of both. So I tend to use needlepoint as the more generic everything umbrella term, cross stitch for cross stitch, and embroidery for the more embroidery is for the I tend to use for more like the more like delicate looking things, I guess, and things you put on clothes and that sort of stuff. But it's confusing as far as what's called what. Um, this I would call this embroidery. And I would call this embroidery is what I would call it. It's also just it's a hand stitch that a lot of people know because it's very, very useful. Big to do embroidery on crochet and knits, yes. And this is, and the blanket stitch is a big stitch that is used with crochet and knit as well because it's a good way. You can do this to put your knitting onto fabric as well because then you knit into each one of these little holes. Okay. What I do when I knit here, as I crochet, I'll also explain to you what I do when I knit, because you can knit into each one of these, but that becomes a bit of a pain in the butt. So I actually use my crochet hook to get the first row of knitting going. But let me find the end of my yarn. So this is, what is this? This is a designer sample, so it's got a not real label, but it is Cascade Heritage Prints Color 57. All right, so, woohoo! All right, I'm going to remove the needle from my thread here, so I'm not just swinging it around and then losing it, and then stepping on it, because that would hurt a lot. Even worse than it would hurt if it was a sharp needle, because, ow. All right. All right, so now all you're going to do is crochet into each one of these holes, each one of these little lines here. So I am going to just do a single crochet into, oopsie, a single crochet into that loop on top, and then I'm going to chain one. Okay, because the single crochet isn't really going to take this up. This is obviously, I put a dot every 1/4 inch, which means that each one of these little lines across the top of thread is a 1/4 inch long, which means it's 4 stitches per inch is my gauge. So if my finished fabric is going to be 4 stitches per inch, then this is lovely. If my finished fabric is going to be 8 stitches per inch, that means that each one of these needs to have 2 stitches in it. If it's going to be 6, then one would have 1, the next one would have 2, and then 1, and then 2. You know, if it was would be 10, it would be 2, 3, 2, 3. If it's going to be 12, they'd all have 3. You get the point, right? You have to kind of do the math if you want to actually have a specific gauge. Um, and the other thing you can do is you can just mark like every, if you know that you want so many stitches per every 4 inches, mark every 4 inches and make sure you're getting them. But the way that I like to make that work, as long as it ends up with a finished fabric that looks pretty, is I'll single crochet once into here, and then I'll just chain 1 or 2, depending on what looks better. And then single crochet just 1 into the next little piece of thread. And then I'm gonna, so here, let me go this way. I'm gonna chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet 1. And I'm realizing I'm doing this from the back, but that's fine because we're gonna turn. But yeah, make sure you're working from the front if you're working in rounds. Okay, and then chain 1. Single crochet into the next, chain 1. Single crochet. This is a lot easier when you're using fabric and not like cardstock, because the fabric moves out of your way, unlike the cardstock. Right, when I would do this, my fabric would be folding under here and getting out of my way, which it doesn't do with cardstock. Single crochet 1, chain 1, 1 single crochet, chain 1, 1 single crochet, chain 1. Okay, so you can do this all the way across. All right. All right, so I'm just going to stop here though. Okay, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn. So we have all that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work into the chain 1 spaces. So I just turned, and I'm going to say that I want twice as many holes. So I am twice as many stitches. All right, so I am going to first, I'm going to put 1 stitch into the very first single crochet, just so, lovely. I thought I hit mute. Let's see. All right. Ah! Well, it's only going to ring 1 more time unless my husband answers it, then it won't ring at all. There we go, that's it. All right, so now I put a stitch into the very first single crochet, and now I'm going to single crochet into the chain 1 here. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put 2 single crochets into each of the chain 1 spaces. All right, I'm going to skip the single crochet and put 2 single crochets into each of the chain 1 spaces. Or you could single crochet in the single crochet in the chain 1, whatever floats your boat. Okay, but you can see if I single crochet in the single crochet, then single crochet into the chain 1, and do that all the way across, that's going to give me 8 stitches per inch instead of the original 4 stitches per inch. Okay, so, and if I wanted to, I could single crochet into single crochet and 2 single crochet into the chain 1 space. Then I would get 12 stitches per inch, right? Because that would be 3 for every one of these 1/4 inch blanket stitches. So you decide how you want to do it. But I find that starting that first row with a single crochet, yes, this yarn is very pretty. Like it is, like I said, it's Cascade Heritage Prince Color 57. It's probably like 4 or 5 years old because this is one of my like at the end of something I made. I feel like it was maybe a washcloth or something. I don't remember. It's one of my pieces of scrap yarn that I use for things like this. So it's probably old. I don't know whether or not they still carry this colorway or not, but it is quite pretty. So yeah, I find that by doing the first row as a, that's a weird squeaky noise. By doing the first row as a single crochet into the blanket stitch and then chain 1 or 2 before you single crochet into the next blanket stitch, I don't get a really kind of gross, bulky, funky seam almost between the fabric and the crochet. Like sometimes things just look weird when you transition from the fabric to the crochet. And by doing it this way, especially if there's a difference in if your crochet is going to be ruffled, or if your crochet is going to be ruffled, it can get a little weird if you try to shove too many stitches in on that very first row. If your crochet is like pulling your fabric in, it can look a little weird if you try to do that too quickly. So that's kind of why I like doing the single crochet chain 1, single crochet chain 1, or more chains if they're needed. Okay, so just remember you might need to, if you're gathering your fabric in, you might need to take a little bit of time in doing that to keep things from a couple rows to do that to keep things from getting too funky looking. Just give it a go and see what it looks like. All right, and try. I definitely recommend knowing what the gauge of your finished piece is going to be if it's not a ruffle. If it's something ruffly, then it's not so much of a big deal. But if it's something that's not going to be a ruffle, like if you have a square of fabric and you're putting a square border on it, you're putting a border around it, and to make it a square that's going inside a blanket or something where it needs to lay flat, you really want to make sure you know what your crochet gauge is, and then make sure if your crochet gauge is 5 stitches per inch, okay, then, and of course you don't measure your gauge per inch, you measure your gauge in at least 4 inches, if not more. So if your crochet gauge is, let's say your crochet gauge is 10 stitches in 4 inches, okay, well then that means that it's 5 stitches in 2 inches, right? And that means it's 2.5 stitches per inch. Let's pretend I said 20. It's 20 stitches. Because we don't want to shove that many stitches in there, or try to shove that many stitches in there. Let's say, this is what happens when I'm just like, riffing here. Let's say your crochet gauge is 20 stitches in 4 inches. Okay, that's 10 stitches in 2 inches, and that's 5 stitches in an inch. So if you have to get 5 stitches in an inch and you've only got 4 of these, then what I would do is I would go single, 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 chain 1, single, 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 chain 1. So you'd be adding that 5th stitch in, but rather than trying to put it in here where there's 2 stitches in every 4th mattress stitch, I would do single crochet 4, chain 1, single crochet in 4 mattress stitches, chain 1, single crochet in each of the next 4 mattress stitches, chain 1, single crochet in each of the next 4 mattress stitches, chain 1. And that'll get you your 5 stitches per inch, because then the next row, you go ahead and you work into all the stitches and the chain 1. Now you have 5 stitches per inch, okay? However, if you find that single crochet in each of the next 3 mattress stitches, 2 single crochet in the next, single crochet in each of the next 3, 2 single crochet in the next. If you find that works and doesn't get like funky right at the seam between the fabric and the crochet, then do that, whatever works for you. But you can see how nicely this attaches to, you know, whatever you need. And this is also, guys, this is a really fun way. Some people love to keep their holiday cards, okay? Birthday cards, Christmas cards, Passover cards. Do people give cards on Passover? I don't know. But I know it's an important holiday. Whatever you're giving cards for, some people like to keep them. And I know, as somebody who's celebrated Christmases, lots of Christmases in my life, I have certainly seen many, especially when I was younger, like ornaments made from old Christmas cards, or like decorative bunting to hang in the kitchen made from old Christmas cards. And they all usually have like crochet or around the edges, or they've got lace glued on or whatever. So this is a way you can do something like that with paper too. Obviously, it works with paper, but that's how I showed you. All right, so there you go. There are some fun ideas. All right, let's see. Yes, yeah, see, and it's simple enough to get, exactly. Like you can have, even if the people in your family or the people you want to like craft with, if they don't crochet, teaching them to do the matches stitch, really quick and simple. And they can do that. They can mark the holes, they can mark the little dots, right? They can use their ruler and mark the dots, and then somebody else can poke the little holes, and you know, somebody can make the little mattress stitch. The reason I pre-poked the holes is because the embroidery needle I was using to sew the mattress stitch didn't have a sharp point. So I used something with a sharp point first to poke the holes. If the needle you're using to do the mattress stitch has a sharp point, and you're using paper, then you can do that. Obviously, if you're using fabric, it doesn't necessarily need a sharp point, depending on how dense the weave of the fabric is. Do I have a video on YouTube of the stitch? I may or may not have the back stitch. I think there's some Jessie at Home that has the back stitch stuff. And part of the announcement I wanted to make was I wanted to have the membership, the Crochet Foundry membership area open, but there were some glitches in getting it going. So I didn't even notice the typo, honestly, Monique. I just read it. Like I said, I have a dyslexic daughter, so I just read it. I don't even notice. Oh, hi! Look at that. Hi, Gregory in a stitch. Okay, so yes, Monique, I read typo and I read dyslexic thanks to my awesome kid. So yes, where was I before? I was being so amused by by Monique being amused by my reading capabilities. Oh yes, the Christmas cards, the doing this to your Christmas cards or whatever, for holiday decorations. Yeah, you can get the whole family involved. People can, you know, you can have people, somebody measuring, somebody poking holes, somebody making your mattress stitch. As far as whether or not I have a video on YouTube, let me, I know I used to, in my old membership, I had it. There may be one Jessie at Home, but the reason why I hadn't sent out the newsletter yet, because I was like holding off, hoping I would have an exciting announcement about like the membership being open. That it didn't happen because we had some technical difficulties with the app. They're all worked out now, but now I still have to get everything on there. Um, but there will be a tutorial for this in the members only area. And I'll just tell you guys, since I'm not good at keeping secrets. The way that I am attempting to get the members only area set up, and I think it's going to work now that we've worked out all the little glitches with the app, is that it will be an auto renew membership, but you can cancel yourself anytime. You don't have to like ask me to cancel when you're ready to cancel. It'll be auto renew, and you'll be able to pay monthly or annually. And it will be $14.99 a month. So the magazine, if you get the past issues of the magazine where there are single issues, is $12.99 a month. The membership will be $14.99 a month, so it's only an extra $2. And what'll happen is during the current month, so this is June, anybody who's a member in June would be able to buy the June magazine, but it's free. But by actually buying it free, it means it goes into your past orders, so that even after you leave the membership, you still have it as a past order on Shopify, so you'll always be able to access it. This was kind of where we had to get really creative in how to make the membership work and get the magazine at the same time. And what we finally figured out we could do was I can make it so that only people who are members are capable of seeing the price and the buy now button for the current issue. And so the price will be $0 and the buy now button will be there, and you'll buy it. You'll get it for free, but it'll only be accessible to people who have the membership. And then from there, when the next issue comes out, so then when July would come out, I would change the price of the June issue to the regular $12.99. I would take the restrictions off of it. I'd move the restrictions onto the July one, and the July one would start off as $0 to begin with. So yes, for $14.99 a month, you get the magazine and the membership. So you would get the magazine. You would have to buy it for free each month. So you have to actually remember to do that. But how could you possibly forget? Because magazine, right? And then you would have access to the membership area. And it's going to start off a little smaller because I need to build things up to it, but it's only $2 a month. So, even if it starts off a little smaller, it's still totally worth it. The shawl patterns that I'm going to be doing for every month will be on there. Then obviously I have little tutorials. You'll see that starting in July, I have a 3-part article, an article that's in 3 parts, starting in the July issue. That is Love What You Create. And it's just a lot of tips on how to make sure that what you're actually making is something you're going to love and you're going to wear, because it really, really stinks when you spend hours and hours making something, and then you never wear it. You never use it because you used the wrong yarn, because your gauge was wrong and it didn't fit, because it's itchy, because it just looks weird. It's not your style. You did it exactly the same way the designer did it, and then you realize that you didn't like the color the designer used, because you didn't think about that. You were just like, oh, this is the color they use. I'm going to get everything exactly what it says on the design. And so you got the color and everything, and then you realize that the color's not a color that you like. You didn't think about that. And sometimes we don't. And it's so funny because you're just like, oh, because it looked gorgeous on that person, but you happen to not feel comfortable in pink. I don't know. So anyway, and sometimes you don't do your finishing techniques quite right, or you washed it the wrong way and it gets mangled. So I have an article in 3 parts that's going to be in the July, August, and September issue. And all of that will also be available in the membership as blog posts in the membership, along with a video as well. So that sort of stuff, there'll be a lot of that sort of stuff that's going to be put into the membership. So there might be articles in the magazine that then in the membership, there's a little bit of extra stuff that goes with it. Videos in videos inside the membership will not have ads on them. Any videos that are posted um, by me, like if I can go ahead and like toss the tutorial video up. If I find it, I can like give you guys the tutorial video link if I have one. I know that I have one that's going to go inside the membership. I just need to check and see if I have the an old Jessie at home one, which I might. Oh, okay. Kid just went to college for the summer and has only been there 2 days, and she wants to talk. So, yeah, if I have an old Jessie at home one, that is public viewing. It'll be on YouTube, and I'll share the link with you guys on the Facebook page. And I can actually also share it in the newsletter. I'll check for that before I send out a quick newsletter after this with the link to tonight's sit and stitch. Because remember, we have a sit and stitch tonight. We're wrapping up here. We have a sit and stitch tonight from 7 to 9 Eastern. So that would be 6 hours and 10 minutes from now. You can get the link over in the Crochet Foundry Makes group, and it is usually in the newsletter, but as I've said 50 times now, the newsletter didn't go out this weekend. So as soon as I'm done here, I will check and see if I have a YouTube video that goes along with the blanket stitch. If I do, then I will I'll add the link to that inside the newsletter, and I'll add the link into the Crochet Foundry Makes group. And I'll definitely put the link for the Zoom sit and stitch tonight in the newsletter. It'll just be a quickie one. I'll do one of those ones that has the little countdown. These are always fun. All right. So guys, keep in mind, like, keep letting me know what you want. Period. What you want. Sometimes I have specific things I really want to talk to you about in these lives. Sometimes we want to go over the new issue. We want to share the new patterns. Sometimes we have, all sorts of things that, I have planned now and then. But then there are other times like today where it's just like there wasn't anything specific to Crochet Foundry that I wanted to share with you. So I just wanted to teach you something fun that I think is a fun thing for crocheters to know, okay? And you do this with fabric, you do this with paper, you do this with whatever. Such a fun way to add a little something extra to a really, really inexpensive clothing, sleeve cuffs, collars. If you have a shirt that you really like, but it feels a little bit short, you can always add a little bit of a trim onto it. My kids found these really fun, there was a R2D2 and a Ewok, a Wicket t-shirt, but they only had them in adult sizes when my kids were little, and they really wanted them. So I bought them, and then I cut a front and a back out of them. I cut like a front dress piece and a back dress piece out of them. This was before Vero had told us that he was a boy. And then I crocheted to give the sides together. And then I crocheted fun little like happy sleeves. And I crocheted a little bit on the bottom to make them a little bit longer. And I even was able to make them little with the sleeves. I took the sleeves and I made them little like wristlets with them. And they had these little dresses and these little wristlets that were these little Star Wars things because they only had them in adult sizes. And it was so fun. Yeah, it was just the coolest little thing. It was so cute. So being able to do something like this, it just really opens up what you can do, and working with your crochet and fabric or crochet and paper or whatever together. It's a lot of fun. But if there's any other techniques you want to know, like, hey, do you have a tip for this? Or, hey, I'm having a really hard time with this stitch. Obviously, the sit and stitches that we do is a great time for you to ask a question and have me be able to show you. but it's also there just so that we can hang out and have fun. The sit and stitch is more, it's all about hanging out and having fun. I love answering your questions. The nice thing with these is that they're saved on YouTube and on Facebook. They don't save on Instagram, but they save on YouTube and they save on Facebook. So you can go back and watch these over and over, whereas we don't record the sit and stitches. Um, and I don't have plans to record the sit and stitches. We can always schedule something that's like a Zoom class that I will record, but I don't want to record the actual sit and stitches because um, they're us having fun. They're not for everybody else. Um, you want to do something cabled with crochet is your favorite. Okay, so are you saying, Karen, that you don't currently know how to do crochet cables? Um, and you want to learn how to do that? Because I am going to put some crochet cable information in there. And Karen, let me write this down. I'm going to, in that newsletter that I'm about to send out, there was a piece of tape on my paper and I just taped to something. Okay, so I'm just going to write this down so I don't forget. I will include the link to my little cable tutorial that I have over on Jessie at Home, just to help you like right away, Karen. But you're on YouTube, so I don't know if you're in the Crochet Foundry group or not. If you're in Crochet Foundry Makes, um, let me know a little bit more in there what you're looking for. Or if you're not in Crochet Foundry Makes, you can go over to, you can email me at, here we go, support@crochetfoundry.com. Tell me a little bit more about what you want to learn, Karen, or like what you want to tip on or whatever. And we'll see if that's something that I want to maybe make one of our Crochet Foundry lives about, or if it's going to be something that I maybe want to turn into a little tutorial. We'll see. Let me know what it is exactly that you want to learn, because I certainly want to make sure that I'm giving you guys content that you're interested in. So that was cable tutorial, and then we were also the mattress stitch. Cool. All right, and of course the link to tonight's sit and stitch. And Karen is also, okay, Karen, great. You're in the Crochet Founder Facebook group. That is awesome. So you can say something in there. If you tag me, Jessie Rayat, I'm easy to find. If you tag me, I will definitely see it. And if you forget to tell me, it's okay, because if I miss it, the moderators will be like, Jess, you missed this, because they're awesome. All right. So I will see all of you, and I'm so glad Thomas visited us. Hi, Thomas. That's so awesome. We're going to be talking about putting some Gregory and a Stitch stuff going on into some, we're going to talk about some collaboration stuff. So that's going to be really cool. All right. So yes, of course you can knit, Karen. You can totally knit at the Sit and Stitch. It is called Sit and Stitch, not crochet and chat, or I don't know. You don't even have to be doing anything with yarn. Like, you can be doing any craft, or you can not be crafting at all. It's nice to be crafting, but whatever. Do you remember the droids cartoon? Yes. The Ewoks in the 80s. Yes. Oh my gosh, the Ewoks cartoon. That was the best. Bye, Monique. Bye, everybody. Definitely, yes, the Ewoks, and of course the Star Wars Christmas show that we're not even going to talk. It's Christmas special that we're not even going to get into. All right, people, you are all awesome. I adore you so much. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope to see a whole bunch of you. And I am a nerd because I know exactly, or geek because I know exactly what Sarah is talking about with the Princess Nisa for her birthday that year. All right, really, I'm going now. I will see you all in like 6 hours at the Sit and Stitch, I hope, okay? Come and join us. Have fun. You guys are awesome. I'll talk to you later.